The recession started in 2001 in America is a conspiracy. The recession started basically because big banks were supposedly trying to fund people, different people, and that these people actually took out more loans than they could afford. And so, thus, the recession was created because these people couldn't pay back, and they lost their houses and they filed for bankruptcy. This is why people claim the recession started. But in actuality, once you think about it, how is this excuse even liable? The fact that big banks actually loaned out money to people that they shouldn't be the responsibility to actually loan out this money to people who can pay it back. If you actually look at the critique and the actual guidelines, which is what they use to loan people out money, in fact, it's basically anyone could have taken out a loan. You could have been unemployed. Fund them. That's basically the catchphrase. Fund them. Because literally, let's say you're unemployed and you want to take out money from basically a big bank. They'd be like, okay, fund them. Let's say you're only a waitress who works in like a local diner, wins like under 10K a year, but you want to take out a 150 grand loan to buy a house. Fund them. Let's say you're unemployed, have no work history, you even have bad credit. You want to live in basically a $600,000 house, so you want to take out loans. Fund them. That was big banks' basic catchphrase. Fund them. Now I'm probably thinking, why would these people do this? If they know that these people can't pay back, why would they do this? Well, basically the transaction is simple. Big banks would have this contract where basically they say, okay, you have to pay back the sum plus interest of what you took out to us. They would have this contract, and then they would sell this contract to smaller businesses and organizations. And then these businesses and organizations would pay them money for these contracts without knowing that these contracts were actually basically fake, a fraud, because there's no way in hell these people are going to pay them back with that amount, let alone that amount plus interest. So basically, big banks got money through this way. They got money from selling faulty, fake contracts. Basically, when they got the money for the contracts, that's how they got their money. After the economy crashed, basically because people could not pay back what they're loaned, they had to give back the houses they bought with the loan money. That's why there's so many houses on the market, because the people couldn't pay back the money or the debt on the house. A lot of people filed for bankruptcy, ruined the credit of a lot of people. That's why housing sales went down. Because at first they went up because everyone's buying all these houses, and then everyone's like, yeah, look, the house market is really great. It's really awesome. Invest. After they fell, there's like such a high amount of houses available that actually the prices for houses went down. That's how they went down. So basically, it's a basic theory of supply and demand. During the beginning, the supply for houses was low because so many people were purchasing them, so the prices for them went up. After the recession, prices for houses went down because of so many houses the bank didn't know what to do with them. That's when different government introduced packages such as the stimulus package, which was used to bail out big banks and businesses that did this moments of fraud, was introduced. A lot of people were against the stimulus package because first off, the banks and these businesses already got money from selling the fraud contracts to smaller businesses and banks. And those smaller businesses and banks that got these fake contracts, they actually went bankrupt and died out because they basically invested in something that didn't even exist. So they basically got ripped off and hustled in a way. Meanwhile, these big banks and organizations, they actually got the large sum of it. Stimulus package basically bailed out these large companies and banks because the large companies and banks basically had the government by the balls. They said, all right, basically this is a recession. Everything's declining. People are homeless, and they're about to be jobless if you don't give us money, so that way we can continue with our processes of being a business or a large bank. So the government, in a way, was kind of blackmailed into giving them the money necessary for them to continue functioning. A lot of people were against this idea because big businesses and banks were responsible for the recession in the first place. And so in that theory, this whole recession is a conspiracy, all concocted by the very people that run these big businesses and banks to get everyone from the lower class, which have barely started their small businesses and small banks, to go bankrupt. In a way, they kind of eliminated the competition, but not only that, but also bought out and even took money from the competition. Now, back to how this relates to Wall Street. Wall Street is basically the main conspirators for the recession. A lot of shady stuff goes behind Wall Street. You don't even know what's going on in Wall Street. So you may be thinking, well, how do I know what's going on in Wall Street? That's just the thing. I don't really know what's going on in Wall Street. But the one thing I do know is that they basically control the stock market. And they were basically making all these little fake things about how, oh, stocks are going up, stocks are going up. You know, stocks are going great, they're going up. And all of a sudden one day they just crash. That's implausible. How is that even possible for that to happen? And people in Wall Street even got charged for FBI for fraud and conspiracy because it was known that they were doing the same thing big businesses and other banks were doing. But when it came down to it, FBI arrested the lower ranking people in this whole conspiracy circle. They arrested all smaller, lower officials that were involved in this. But the big ones, the big main people from Wall Street, they didn't touch them. They couldn't touch them because according to them, they had no proof. And for me, this doesn't sound like justice or anything like that. This sounds like a way for people to manipulate the system and take advantage of it. Meanwhile, we, the taxpayers, are the ones that have to pay for this. All the money that the government has is actually our money. The money that Wall Street is playing with and other big organizations and banks for bailing them out is actually our money. We get taxed for it. You may be thinking, oh, well, it's their money too. No, it's not. If you look at it, the Koch brothers, which are these people that own basically almost a lot of the large corporations, basically win around millions, hundreds of millions of dollars every year just from their organizations. Do you know that these people, from what they earn, they actually get taxed half as much as a firefighter, as just a regular firefighter? So basically a firefighter, an average firefighter that works for, say, I don't know, Tallahassee, Florida Fire Department, they have to pay twice as much taxes as these Koch brothers that basically are part of the top 1 percentile of America. Basically billionaires. Billionaires. I'm talking about rich people. You can even Google this. Koch brothers. They own a large percentage of companies. They invest a large percentage of companies. And they even have large investments in large companies. And in that way, we can see that it's not just corporations that are taking over. It's basically people that are running them are even associated with them. So basically, the top 1% is running the system. They're calling the shots. The top 1% is telling us that they're in charge and that there's nothing we can do about it. But I say otherwise. I say that without us, they are nothing.